people, welcome to Garage Media Junkies one more time. 5th episode. Way! We didn't thought we would make it to the first one, but we're 5, and next year is going to be 100. So just keep listening, keep subscribing. Today is a special one because we have 2 guests. Yay! The ratings going to explode because we have female voices. Yay!
More female voices.
More female.
Well, you had a female voice last week.
Well, yeah, true. I was thinking about another thing, but whatever. We obviously have Chris in here this week for sure.
I'm back.
Yeah. How was that week off? And by the way, it was Chris' birthday. Hit 30. The big 30.
Yeah. Hit the golden birthday 30 on the 30th.
He's getting old, but it's fine. I'm already old. Anyway.
You're right behind me.
And the guest for this week, it's our wives. Yeah, I know it sounds so awkward. You don't want to hear about wives and husbands, but that's the thing that sells these days. But on my side, we have Nicole Hendricks. Please say hi to the audience. Don't be a mean wife that you're with me. I know you love Diego Luna, but I'm trying my best.
A complimentary Diego Luna drop.
This is Nicole Hendricks. I'm excited to be a part of this podcast this evening. We'll talk more about the truth value of whether or not I'm into Diego Luna later in the podcast, I imagine. We'll leave that as something to be investigated.
We're going to have a Diego cast or something later. And Chris, make that on us.
On my right is my wife, Caroline.
Hello, Caroline Espinoza. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I know. It's like it should be like a big honor for you girls. It's not just like everybody can get in this podcast.
Not just anyone.
Yeah. But this episode, we're going to talk about something important since last week our guest was an audio engineer. And for so many reasons, people overlook a little bit music and media. So we're going to talk about composers and soundtracks and great music over almost 100 years in movies and almost 40 in video games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting really mature, the video game scene. So I'm going to start just throwing the question for you guys. Any movie that really leave a mark on you on the music side with the soundtrack, because there are so many good ones, and I know it's really hard, but whatever pops first, that's kind of important for you and you like a lot.
So again, to clarify, you get movies, TV shows, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Choices.
Yeah, it's always hard.
You have anything?
You can go.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm going to start just
because he's the host.
He is the
host. Because I'm the host, and
Respect.
I own this podcast, and I'm the owner of this podcast. By the way, I'm the owner. So I'm going to start with, for me, it's one composer that I love a lot of movies is Ennio Morricone. And for whoever's listening this crap, it's one of the most biggest composers for spaghetti westerns. The bad, the good, and the ugly. And I don't know, I'm so bad with names.
Anything with what? John Wayne.
Yeah, but the beauty of this composer, at least for me, is just how simple. There are few notes, few chords, even sometimes just guitars. Mm-hmm. But how much add to so many scenes. Like even that famous scene with Clint Eastwood and the other 2 guys, with the close-ups and how the pace and the editing and just the music adds so much tension. And just with, simple guitar. And it's so incredible.
Yeah.
Somebody else?
Well, for me, a personal favorite is Lord of the Rings. Yeah. And of course, you had 3 movies to pan out, different societies and kingdoms, and they did a really great job embodying each one, I think. Like Rohan, the score, you know it when you hear it. And of course, the epic battle and war scenes. You know the difference between a Mordor.
A Hobbiton.
Versus Hobbiton, very, very melodic and sweet and sort of, you felt the warmness and closeness. But I think they did a wonderful job bringing light to each part of the world, and they brought it to life in a great way.
Definitely. I agree on that.
No.
Mr. Chris.
I would have to go with one I was surprised my wife didn't take. It was Hans Zimmer. I
Yeah,
really enjoy Hans Zimmer
I
as far
love
as.
Hans. Okay.
And I know you love Hans. That's why I'm so glad you didn't take it.
He does a
And
lot.
He does. We were looking up all of the soundtracks that he had. There isn't a genre he hasn't done yet. And I feel like with Hans, he really dives deep into the psychology of the characters. He doesn't just write music for a scene. He writes music for the entire movie.
Brings it to life.
Yeah, the whole experience. So it's another character within those movies. I don't normally buy soundtracks. We don't. And we own about 5 or 6 Hans Zimmer soundtracks because they're just so
great,
epic, and they have huge movements through them. So,
well, he'll go from something like The Holiday, which is sort of chick flick, rom com, enjoyable, but he does a beautiful job, encapsulating a character for whenever he makes the music, and then he'll go with
Dark Knight.
Yeah,
I
Dark
think
Knight.
that was his big breakout. I think it's more about. Well, of course, it's like the composer. They made the job, but I mean, they can do as much as the director asks. So I feel like he's been growing with the directors. He's been attached to the movies. Like definitely Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Jumping, like squeeze every single, neurons in his brain, right? Does it work? There you go. Yay! I'm getting better.
He's
English.
learning.
Yeah, but I definitely think Hans Zimmer is one of the biggest right now, like the new composers. Senor Hendricks.
I'm convinced that this song is both in Gladiator and in Man on Fire, and I can't find it, but those are both 2 favorites, and every time I watch one of them, I can't tell if it's truly the same one or if it's different. So there's a song that is in some poignant moments in both of those that I need to find. There's also a song with lyrics at the end of Man on Fire that's just really amazing. It took me forever to find it and download it. This is back like Napster days when you had to find and download it. But that's a favorite for me.
LimeWire.
LimeWire. Also, I really like when there's a big juxtaposition. So this one isn't a true one. This is just a joke that Hugo, my husband, was making. But we're all watching. Someone help me with Battle of the Bastards in Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
And it was this silent moment. And Hugo, my husband, just starts singing, "Turn down for what?" And I kept thinking, oh my goodness, if that really was in there. It was silent. So when you move from silence to something that doesn't really match, sometimes that can be incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends. But go ahead, Carla.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like Kill Bill kind of does that. It's very, I can't describe it, but it's a very serious scene.
It's manic is what its tone is.
Yeah.
And you'll have a serious scene where it's talking about, again, more explicit content here.
Right.
You're talking about raping an unconscious person, and you have this light, airy whistling music happening. So it doesn't match at all, but it creates something that's bigger than itself.
It's extremely memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, like, I think they didn't have I think Tarantino, the only movie to have a composer was the last one, The Hateful Eight. But he always recycles a lot of music and just how he paced with the scenes in the movies. Yeah, and that's really great.
And then again, then you get to those directors that make movies, who are directors, writers, and they have many hats. They will make movie scenes based off of what music they want. In the film. Like you take James Gunn, for instance, with the Guardians movie. He would just listen to a bunch of music from that era. And he would figure out what works, and then he'd write a whole scene about it so that he could use it. So again, that's a not new, but an innovative way to use music to his advantage.
Right, I think the other big one that always, I just call it recycled because really it's just, I know it's more deeper, like you say, that they think about the scene around the music and everything. But I think they just take those already really marketable songs and prove it. They're famous. Just bring it back to movies. And Martin Scorsese, he was one of the probably not the first one, but definitely one that it was a signature. And every. And I guess it comes to because now he likes to hire a composer to do the music for the movie. But I think most of those directors, because the budget is more easy to, like, for example, for Quentin Tarantino, I think it was Jackie Brown, if I'm not wrong. They make a deal with the record label to bring this music. They did this both thing, like let's relaunch this album already as a soundtrack of the movie, and then the rights are lower because everybody's getting a cut of the whole deal, and sometimes it's more convenient for money purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
Just this music is already there. Let's reuse it and even actually get a more benefit, like making to modern audiences. So I think that's really cool about how they bring all this music and tones and just make a cool thing at the end of the day. Any other movies, guys?
On I guess a side note, but on in terms of movies you talk about, but in television, I really appreciate bringing a song that you are familiar with already and turning it so covers. And it's, a show that uses that a lot is Grey's Anatomy. So you're hearing a song and you're like, okay, I'm sort of familiar, and then you realize like, oh, that's a very popular song that I know, but they're using a different artist and they've turned it in a different light. And I do appreciate that too. At the same time, it can turn a song that is very poppy and turn it to alternative or just an acoustic version, and I can appreciate that. It makes me do more research and see what else is out there and what else that artist has made, just beyond the cover.
And I guess that's where movies and TV shows differ a little bit, because you have themes in movies and such, and then TV shows have a larger scope to kind of spread out its soundtrack or to kind of find what kind of music works. So with TV shows, I find that it's great to kind of branch outside what I'm comfortable with, and sometimes I'll hear it, like she's talking about, not on Grey's, but within certain shows.
It's okay, you can admit it.
I was only addicted for a little bit.
To be honest, I watch a few episodes, but then at some point it started getting so ridiculous. But anyways.
I agree, but I keep watching.
We're going to talk about Grey's Anatomy in another episode.
A great podcast.
Great podcast. Yeah. What? Go on, Chris.
What I was, it's just like there was a show on FX, Rescue Me. Dennis Leary, and he would help pick all that music, and I've never had such a wide breadth of music to kind of pick from that I absolutely loved, and it was just all on my iTunes, and it was like for 5 years I had all this randomness just downloaded. But that's what I love about TV shows and music, is that it puts me in a different type of mood than I would normally be in, so it has that power over the consumer to kind of put us in a correct headspace, which is why it's so important that you have somebody educated at the helm, because it can always crash and burn.
Yeah, totally. And I think that another difference between TV shows and movie, and maybe you guys agree, it's you have more chances to hear a song and actually stick with you, and because the repetition every episode, and you listen and have have more deeper meaning. And even not just that, in the marketing side, like I bet you as soon as you hear the first few notes of The Walking Dead, The Walking Dead. It's exactly. It's really characteristic of the show. But I think that's other part that TV shows give you a different experience than the movies.
Right, and again, we were talking about it. It was certain music can absolutely take you right back to that moment that you saw something in your show. Yeah. So we were talking about like the Rains of Castamere during Game of Thrones. Again, more spoilers. You should have watched it already.
It's a couple seasons ago.
But the Red Wedding, and then just hearing that whole prelude come in,
it makes you sick to your stomach, or at least it does for me.
But even without, my wife and I don't read the books, and so we watched the shows live, just blind. Right. Nobody spoiled that for us, but watching that whole entire scene unfold with that music, even no knowledge of a red wedding happening, it still made me very uneasy and very afraid.
Foreboding, yeah.
Yeah. So, but now there's all those memes of people saying, "Oh, I'm gonna play, the Rain to Casimir at my wedding."
Start looking around.
Yeah, see who starts panicking.
No, I don't think it's a great idea. You don't want heart attacks at your wedding, believe me. So it's fine.
But music was able to make that very, very tough scene more palatable, but also way more scary. And when you think of that scene, I guarantee you don't think about it without thinking of that music.
Yeah, it's even more powerful in the sense of obviously what unfolded, but on top of that, the score that went with it.
Yeah, the one that was talking last podcast too, and it's from the same company, HBO. It's Westworld. I was telling Sean, our last guest, that it was so subtle. Like he's just in the background, like a little, not even a hiss, but it's kind of like when you go in a mall and you have the background.
Elevator music almost.
But it has a deeper meaning, just the way it started unfolding everything, how it changed depending on the characters. And even like Carolyn say that some songs are coming back and just play in a different way. It's just like those scenes with the piano.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys, if you notice, they're well-known songs usually with the little piano playing every single time.
Drive me insane.
We would have to pause the show to find out what that song was.
Yeah.
Because they were so familiar, yet they were played in such a way that it kind of, it was like that tip of the tongue phenomenon where you can't remember quite, but you know what it is. And I love that because it made me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But also like I was...
Bug you.
But it reminded me of what the show was trying to do to the guests at the park, which was make you feel at home, but not so much at home that you let your guard down. You can still be in this brand new place and have this new persona, but here are some amenities. And the way Westworld does it, that's when we get to the next topic. It ties in perfectly with my favorite game with music, but we'll keep going.
We're almost there. And like you're saying, it was for the guests, but also I see him for the host. Is that uncomfortable thing that I know this thing,
familiarity,
but I can't really, say it. Like I know I have some memories, but I just can't remember. But well, so I think it's just the way they do the show is really well-rounded, especially with the music. Yeah. What about like all those classics? Like I can remember, for example, you guys as soon as hear the
Star Wars
or like Jurassic Park and all that stuff. I'm seeing the slowly they still use those kind of compositions. They're big and they hire really big band.
A lot of grandeur.
Yeah, but I feel also small movies, they're making way more independent movies these days, and they kind of lack of that part because, again, money. Like if I need to make a movie tomorrow, that's kind of like the first part that you start thinking like, I will figure it out later. But are you guys seeing these going more towards that, where you either recycle more music or making just expressive songs instead of having this big band and do it like in a big scale?
Well, from personally, for an example for me is the Divergent series. So absolutely in love with that. I felt like the first soundtrack, they invested time, they put together these songs that embody the mood they were going for. It's wonderful. But as time went on, I felt like they invested less time into the scores and the songs they picked, and they just sort of let it go by the wayside. And that was disappointing for me. Music can truly make it memorable and more powerful, and that they didn't put as much effort in the later movies. It made me disappointed. I was a little lackluster.
Less invested.
I wanted more. I expected more, and I got less, and that was kind of a bummer. So
you know what? Another series lately that really has been one of my biggest revelation, and like enjoyed so much, because it was almost at the same level as what were you watching on the screen, was Luke Cage. The soundtrack of that series was like amazing. It was just really well. Like I was like, dang it, these guys steal all my ideas. Of course, they just came and steal everything.
We were at that Comic-Con panel when they kind of first put out a lot of those trailers and teasers, and we had the director come out there, and he worked really closely because music was so important to him growing up, and he knew for this character he wanted that to be another character in his story was the music. So he says, I wanted this whole entire season to feel like an album, like a record you would put on and you would listen to it from start to finish, because that's how you watch Netflix.
And that tells that story through that.
Yeah, I think you notice right away when you're watching the whole series, there was plan like that. Yeah. I mean, even when he's walking the street.
It wasn't haphazard.
Dang, I'm so jealous. I wish I can be that guy and walk everywhere with that soundtrack everywhere I go. You know, going to the coffee shop and that soul music. But yeah, that was the other one that I really enjoyed recently. Mrs. Hendricks.
TV shows that music has.
Music. By the way, for you guys listening, we have a kid. You already know that. He's sleeping, and we just have baby monitor. So he woke up a few minutes ago, and my wife ran away.
She's being the best mama.
She's trying to be here and over there. So you should have big respect for that. Because I'm the owner of this podcast. She's my wife.
It's a big deal.
Showing my versatility here, being able to just jump right back in. Did we talk about Shonda yet? Oh, we did. Okay. Yeah, just so she's like a curator of music. I mean, I would love to know who exactly is doing that job. Right. Are there multiple people on the team doing that job?
Can I help?
Because there's, with each different series, it's just really, I mean, you go away thinking like, oh, I need to go buy that soundtrack.
Exactly.
And like we talked about, that's not something where people now go and buy soundtracks.
Right.
So you have your Hans Zimmer soundtracks, but it's not something we do anymore. So that would be one. I think also Mad Men, really capturing the period of things. And then switching back to movies. I know I'm jumping here and there, but Forrest Gump was one of the first films where music played that kind of role to capture a time. Obviously not being from that time period, but just really feeling like, oh shoot, I gotta go. There's my son. Bye.
Continuing on with Forrest Gump there.
That's how we rolling, yeah. Yeah, but I think Forrest Gump also implement that part where every stage of the character sort of the music will change almost like gradually of these Forrest Gump character will change over time and period, But try to think. Are you guys here? Cliff Martinez, this is not a new composer, but it's kind of like the same thing with Hans Zimmer. What's going on? Maybe you guys watch. Let me think. Drive with Ryan Reynolds. Ryan
Gosling.
Ryan Gosling, yeah.
One of the Ryans.
Yeah, one of those guys, the gods. Yeah, but I don't know if you guys watched that movie, Drive or all. Yeah.
Anything else?
Only God Forgives. It's these directors from I think Norway or Denmark, some Scandinavian country over there. His name is Nicholas Winding Refn. He's doing a lot of sort of experimental movies. So if you people are hearing and you like weird stuff, that's your guy. Yeah, I mean, because that Only God Forgives, for example, I think Ryan Gosling speaks a few lines in the entire movie, and everything is, it's kind of like artsy, and some people don't like that because, why they're not talking that much. But everything around has a meaning.
Yeah,
blah,
saying
blah.
something.
But one of the stuff is the music, the way these guys sort of taking those like 70s, 80s electronic music, and again, it just enhanced everything around the movie, and I think it's a guy that we should keep an eye on it. Because, like I say, it's sort of happening with Hans Zimmer. We start with this, we can call it silly movies, sort of, to, go into more interesting projects.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we can agree all that music in general, and it wouldn't be the same. Like, even if we speak from silent movies, making the jump from silent movies to, finally have that.
But even silent movies, it was just the audio. They would pay pianists to sit in the theater to make the music because it was so important to have music. There was, I guess it was like a year ago or something like that, or maybe a year and a half. Somebody really brought it to light that even a great movie like Star Wars, the original one, how awkward it is without music. You watch that entire ending sequence with no music in it, and it gets really
It
creepy.
doesn't mean the same.
No, it doesn't. And that's the whole point, is that music really makes you feel uplifted. John Williams says, like, again, back to your question of the sweeping, big orchestra music, does a really good job lifting you up, even when things are heavy or bad.
Yeah.
So that ending scene where everybody's, oh, you did great. Here it is. Here's your medal. But the Chewbacca screams. Without any music, it's an awkward fest.
You're like, dude, what's going on here?
Everybody's just weirdly smiling at each other. Nobody's saying that. You don't really break down the scene the same way without the music and really understand that. Why is nobody talking? Why is she just handing it to him without saying anything?
And it's just that I think as a human people, like in evolution of humanity, music's always been with us. So we sort of understand. I bet if you put a little kid that triumphant music, he's going to understand the meaning. Like, oh, yeah, that guy is the winner.
Yeah.
Just with that, those chords and how he's structured the song. Or even a sad one, like, oh, that person maybe Sarah is going to die or something like that. Like, we have that cheap really in.
It's hardwired.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like math in that way, where it's a universal language, so it means the same, and you can feel the same things, and it's very beautiful in that sense.
It's beautiful and weird at the same time, though. But it's just how it works, and we're glad the music exists in movies for sure. But then another important, I feel like it's getting bigger. I mean, video games in general is way bigger. We already discussed, Chris and I, in other episodes, that it's already way bigger than movies and even probably TV shows. But I always feel in some way that for so many years it was kind of lackey, the music part. Until recently, that they're doing what movies does, hiring these big composer guys, or even doing the crossing, like people from the movies to start jumping on the video game industry. Let's start like the movies. You guys mentioned a few video games that you have, really in your memories. Like these soundtracks are amazing.
Well, like Hugo was saying, video games were lacking in the beginning, again, because they were limited by the hardware. So you have these 8-bit genre. I mean, you go back to when videos came out, and it's the Atari, you have your Pong. All you had were the sounds of that was your extent.
That's all you get.
But again, with the 8-bit stuff, you were limited by what you had. And even that blows my mind that they thought, you know what, we're just going to have these weird sounds and we're just going to arrange them in a way that it's going to be great. But if we're going to start off, I'm going to let my wife go first while we're still here on like the 8-bit genre.
On the 8-bit genre? I was thinking...
Oh, go for it then. Go for it.
I was thinking the Legend of Zelda games, because for me, I don't know, it set a tone and a mood, and it was a wonderful... I hear it now, and it brings back childhood memories of either friends playing, I'm playing, but it was... it was just iconic for what it was.
Yeah.
And it... just very memorable.
But again, that was one of the few games that has been around since the 8-bit genre and has worked its way all the way up to the current genre. I mean, that's
still going strong.
Yeah, 25 years. That's ridiculous.
Right.
Oh, I mean, actually, I think it might be 30. It's as old as I am. Oh, my goodness.
There you go. Welcome to reality, Chris. Welcome.
Right. Oh, my gosh. But when you think about it, like really think about it, you're right. Everybody knows that song. From the 8-bit version to the current version now, it always is this nostalgic feeling. And I think that's what the whole point of these games are, or music in general, is it's supposed to feel like a familiar memory. Yeah.
And like again, it's just the same as movies. Like you hear the song and all these nostalgia, all these memories, but then at the same time, they talk to you. They even with the limitation of 8 bits. A great composer, you give him a tool no matter what.
Oh my goodness, yes.
A great thing, period.
I fall in love more and more with this man every podcast.
You see how it is.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? Sorry, I didn't try to just
no,
like
you're fine.
Whatever.
We were talking about Caroline's pick, which was Legend of Zelda, and I think with that one, it was one of the first games to kind of switch it up on the fly. With when you start changing or when you actually engage an enemy, not the old NES version, but like even things like from This, I believe you were talking about Ocarina of Time on the 64.
Got it.
It was one of the first ones where you could be running around Hyrule Field, and you get the overworld music coming on, and the second an enemy would aggro you and look at you and start attacking you, the music would switch seamlessly. It wasn't a dead cut off, and then the battle music would start. It was this seamless transition, which is it never removes you, and it pumps you up. I remember as a kid, you'd be running in the dark, and you hear the music, and you're like, no,
something's coming.
Mommy,
right?
Change my diaper.
I guess my pick would be the BioShock series. So I would pick BioShock Infinite as my front runner.
The new one, the
most recent one. Yeah. Because again, when I was playing, you don't know that the game, again, more spoilers, you don't know that the game takes place kind of in an alternate universe or in the past, like the way past. And as you're playing through the game, you're in this floating city that looks like it's taking place in the 1920s. But you're hearing songs on those old-time, like, phonograms, but from the current day. Like, you hear Madonna, Girls Just Want to Have Fun playing, or the Beach Boys, God Only Knows. And you're hearing it, and in your head, you're registering it, but you're just going along, and it made me feel a little bit more comfortable up there. And then they worked that into the game itself. It totally blew my mind when that curveball came, when it was, oh, no, they're getting it from the future, but we're in the past in a different... I was...
mind blown.
Great, great use of music.
Honey, what about you? I don't know, you're not super into video games, but I can bet you that at least you can remember one game that stuck, the music stuck with you in the head.
A little bit out of my element here. The only games I liked were Mario 1 and 3. Those were the only ones I did really well on.
Like a fine wine, she knows it.
No, but I think the music can bring like a social element to. I remember Mario 1. I was young. Yeah, but I mean, watching my friends play. So we had friends who were brothers. So it was Ryan and these friends and I, substantial periods of time watching the boys play this game, like politely waiting for my turn, which that's a whole gender conversation there. But, but, just being able to interact with the music if you weren't playing was like another layer. But yeah, really out of my element because we weren't allowed video games, and then not my favorite thing.
There's a great parenthesis we can do right here, because clearly my wife is not. She really don't like it that much. She sometimes get upset with me when I play, but she's really. We're working that part of our relationship really deeply. But that's my question. You think it has an importance, and how can, sort of push the experience of a person that loves video games? Like, you think it's important, that element in the music, and how it can evolve? And since you people are listening, my wife is working, in school and stuff. So how you can see even another layer where it can actually help, let's say, a younger kid. All right, you're not going to be able to take games out of his hands because they're there, but then how maybe you think industry and video games can use the music part for a learning experience in a video game,
Sorry.
That's a lot of questions.
Details.
We got education and video games, music and video games. But I think I can answer this just about technology in general, and I want, Chris and Caroline have both been in education too, so I definitely want them to answer. For me, the thing that concerns me is use of technology and how. So we have it, we're using it for education, but how? So another example, I'll give you a lesson kind of off the path here. We have an online library for our school. And one lesson, I walk in a room and kids are just reading their books, and they're not even reading, they're just flipping. Another lesson, kids are doing like compare contrast graphic organizers. They're reading at their level in pairs. So anytime I'm in a room, I'm looking for student to student interaction, student to teacher interaction, student to text. So anytime you add a layer in there, like music, then you have another layer where they're doing multiple things with their brain. So I'm not a big fan of video games for teaching because I think it usually takes that student-to-student element out. But if you're bringing music in, it's another point of conversation where kids may then begin interacting on that level. But I want to hear what Chris and Caroline think about this one.
Any thoughts, Chris?
For education?
Well, I asked, you guys obviously also involved in education, and it was a direct question for her just because she's not into video games. I want to see that side. But, us, we care probably more than the average, maybe. But then from you side, guys, now that you have more experience with video games and you still playing video games, the same thing. It's just how much music add to that whole experience. Because now we're talking about complex things where Chris says, like, even some character show up in the screen and then suddenly the music change and give him a more deeper meaning to that character in the game. Like, how much for you it's important how that same music is changed over time.
Right. I think especially if we're going to stick on that education point, I think with books, maybe if, and this is where a lot of resources would need to be taken, but for certain kids whose attention is hard to hold, when a kid reads a book online, maybe having, like, not ambient music playing, but something to kind of engage the kid while they're reading. So if, it says it's taking place at the beach, whatever that scene is, you hear ocean sounds, you hear certain types of music, it's going to engage the kids on a deeper, I guess, subconscious level. And then when they flip the page, the music changes according to what they're reading. I think that would be a good way to kind of get them involved. So if they are flipping really fast through the pages, music is just changing like crazy, and they're going to want to stay on those pages to at least hear the music and see what it's all about. And I think it might be a little bit more useful. But again, it's a tool that music can have in there. But I do agree that video games and education never mix well. They find exploits.
Let's just leave it like that. It's for home and have fun. So I think I didn't say my video game, but I think I'm gonna come back to recent times, way more recent times. I always loved the music on the video games. Like, I mean, I can remember Street Fight. That was one of the big ones. And it's kind of cheesy and corny soundtrack, but it was there in every character, and even it was weird when I was playing it. And probably I have a problem when I was a kid, but even hearing the music, I was like, "Hey, let's fight!" Sort of. Turn on that trigger.
Yeah.
Aggressiveness.
No, so to this day, I hear the Mortal Kombat theme song and I want to fight.
Pumps you up.
Fight. Especially if I have those in the background. Yeah, why not? But the one that sort of I started feeling that the video games finally made the jump was with The Last of Us. That soundtrack was just... I mean, the whole story, the whole game I think is a jewel, is a masterpiece.
Visual story, music, everything.
Yeah,
could have been a
all
movie.
the elements. Yeah, and they're going to make a movie probably out of it. But then that part of the music, I'm a big follower, and I think now I have the name of the person, the composer of that. The whole soundtrack is Gustavo Santaolalla. I think it's an Argentinian composer. And I know it from before, and this has been also producer of a lot of Mexican Latin bands. And the guy is just a genius in general. But then that's when I noticed when somebody of this caliber jumps in a video game production, it means that it has a lot of money. That game had a lot of money, and I'm glad they're bringing that people, those music people. They always been in the music industry, bring them to the video games to enhance those. And I really love it. I mean, that's the soundtrack that always stays with me. It's the first time I bought a video game soundtrack. Yeah, I felt so proud of saying. But from here now, we explained how music and how it's important. But I want to go a little bit more in deep with the video games and what's the sort of future for video games, guys, from your point of view, especially with the music and the whole thing that we're talking. It's just growing so fast, it's so massive.
I'm going to piggyback off of what Caroline said about Lord of the Rings, and I think that where video games are going to go, I do think they're going to get bigger, but what I think that we've kind of niched on is certain, I don't know, this is another topic, but we're moving away from linear gameplay, where it's a single story, you have a one path to go on, you can make some choices, but they're not, it doesn't change the overall story. That's the story is the main component, not your actions. To where we're in an open world, and so there needs to be a lot more themes. So like Lord of the Rings, you have certain areas like Hobbiton or Rohan, which have these melodies that play in the background where we're jumping back and forth in scenes. And sometimes as an audience member, it can kind of get confusing as it all looks like big castles. And so when you have the theme playing, it helps you orient yourself that, okay, we're here now.
That's a good point.
So with video games, I think as they're more open world, the more subtle the themes are, the more you actually put character into your music, the more people really identify with where they are and where they're at, and it really makes a difference. Because I remember even in Zelda, one of my favorite places was Gerudo Valley, and it's a desert. There really isn't anything to go, but the music was just so good with the Spanish guitar. I lost my mind as a kid, and as an adult, I still do. But it made sense. Yeah, and there's nothing to do there, but the music is so good. I love going there. So I feel that music will go more towards that area as the games are going in that area, being open, and so they need you to stay in certain pockets to complete missions. That's my own opinion.
Well, what I talked about with Chris before is, on a random note with The Sims, they make all current songs and put them in Simlish, which I find just interesting creativity-wise. They bring the artists and they'll have them sing it in Simlish. I just appreciate, the creativity factor to bring somebody in and just make it anew, make it different, but in place for that game. And it just, again, opens up a world through creativity and makes it, work for that scene or what they're trying to set.
Yeah. Because with, again, what we're moving away from is actually putting songs in games. What's the last game you remember playing that actually had a song, like a real song in it, like from the radio?
GTA, which is...
dang it.
Put it on the radio.
I thought about it right as I said it. But even beyond that, beyond the GTA, which is a life simulator.
No, I think GTA is like its own thing. It's a staple of the video game. It's always been there. But yeah, you're right. Like
it used to be like the Tony Hawk games and like racing games that used to put it in there.
But it's so weird. Like it's a weird segment of video games they have actually.
But that's the other part too. When you have those in there, I remember skipping songs or taking them off my playlist because I hated them, and I would only have 3 songs to listen to over and over again. But with it, a composition like The Last of Us, when it's composed, can you name one song or one piece that you didn't like, that you were like, I hate being here because I have to listen to this song?
Well, no, because we're coming back to the work that they do is so complex. I mean, even in movies, it's extremely complex.
It's magic.
The director is so... They need to be really tight with the composer, especially at those levels where, the director already have these scenes and the script, and he already know a few ideas of what's going to happen. Like, all right, these characters coming in, but, doing this thing, but they need to work around the scene and create that song for that specific purpose. And that's what happened with that video game Last of Us. Like every time they go to the forest, it's a specific tone, and it's telling you like these guys are just gonna walk around here, nothing's gonna happen. As soon as you top like a mission or something, boom, everything changed, of introduction of new characters. So I think that's it's different. I mean, a GTA game, it's a complex for a certain level, but what you do in that game is so simple. I mean, it's just go and have fun. And The Last of Us is a message. They want you go through that experience through those characters to have those feelings, and I think they accomplished that really well in that game. And I think going on, to the future is what's gonna happen is what you're saying. Like, it's becoming more subtle, but that means that the work. And
it triples.
It's just really complex.
And I was going to say, my props go to the games because with movies, you block a scene. Yeah. You only have to write music for a finite amount of time. Whereas if I have my character walking to the super duper chest and it's playing the build-up music and I don't move, that build-up music has to stay there.
Right.
And then it has to change as I get closer. Or with the battle, that song's going to run out. Or when I make it to the third battle phase, it's going to have to even intensify even more. But again, I may reach it in 5 minutes. Caroline may reach it in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
The song has to know, it's like you said, super complex to get to that point.
Yeah, I feel like in these kind of in media, the most subtle something becomes, it means it's more complex and more work that's behind those little changes.
But when they do that, it reaches us on such a subconscious level that we attach to it so hard.
Yeah, it can be something as simple as a Mario song that everybody knows.
There you go, Nicole. Mario song.
Yeah. to you know, like a big budget game. What about you, Love? Like, I mean, I know you're not into video games, but so far with, you know, everything that we discuss, what's the bright future that you see in video games?
I'm so excited.
No, I actually was going to joke that you must have orchestrated this topic to make me actually not hate video games and interested. I mean, now that I'm having to, you know, give it a fair shot and a listen to, you know, with people other than my spouse, and like, it makes me want to go check it out. So I think it's getting people on an entry point. You know, anytime you're looking at media or something, you're looking at different entry points and how they all interact to enhance the experience. And this makes me want to go, like, play a bunch of games. And
He's
wow,
fist
I
pumping.
bet you
He's
never
fist
thought
pumping.
you would hear me say that.
It's on record right now.
Oh, shoot, it is recorded, eh? Yeah.
You play this back.
But that's the future of video game, maybe. But, you know, not joking aside, reaching demographics of people who otherwise wouldn't be interested is probably, you know.
In terms of what Nicole was saying, I agree, because you'll be playing something like Assassin's Creed. I'm tuned out. I'm doing my own thing, reading. And I'll hear a certain scene or whatever it is, and I'll have to look up because I want to know what he's doing, and there's a tone being set. I want to understand, like, hey, what's going on? Something changed, and I'll notice a lot.
And
It's
like
a
we
score.
said, it's caught up to that media of TV and movies where it's not just us mindlessly playing. That when we're playing a really good game and there's a story, non-gamers can look at it and go, I want to watch it. I think that's why, too, a lot of these Let's Play videos on YouTube are so big, because they're just watching other people play this game and the story unfold. They're just as invested as if they are playing. They just have a funny person commenting on it as well, or at least reacting to it. Humans have a funny tendency to just want to watch other people react to something and really love something. So I think with music, it's like you guys have both said, it's a great entry point for people who aren't invested in it to at least go, oh yeah, I know music, I like music, I like this music. Yeah.
Yeah, and like even like you said, even a video game, you skip all the gameplay and you just put together all the cutscenes. It's like a mini movie or a short movie.
Yeah.
Well made, like with all the, you know, all the things that you expect from a big budget Hollywood movie or something like that.
I know for a fact that BioShock Infinite is 3 hours and 45 minutes just cutscenes.
You have to look that up.
Chris did it.
No, I didn't. I just knew it.
Oh,
It's not on
wow.
YouTube.
Yeah, like it's so many channels you can find. They you know, edit it and chop it up and then put together the whole.
YouTube is like the internet in the internet.
Oh boy.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's its own thing too.
It's a sinkhole.
It's the video Google.
So maybe we should start doing that, like play video games so people can watch us. Maybe one day that happen. It will be like this.
And then you can tell your wife that, you know, you have to go do your job, which is to play video games.
I always thought about those guys do that. Like, honey, I'm going to work. And they just sit in the couch. I'm working so hard.
Don't bother me.
Yeah. But, well, continue with just the last topic. And this is going to be just to run it up and finish. But I think we're talking about where is going, you know, music and the future of music on video games. Now we need to start thinking about the whole thing of VR.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, I know I sort of hate talking about that topic a little bit, but we need to talk because it's going there. It's already here. There are already a few products that you can experience VR, like a $400 crap that you put in your head, and that's just the cheapest one.
Yeah.
You can go all the way to that $1,000, which I think I will never pay for something like that. $1,000 for just, you know, it's just I think
not
it's a
worth
little
it.
bit ridiculous right now. But then you need to start thinking how all these elements is gonna play on that kind of system, because then it change. It's not anymore you in front of a screen. Like we've been talking, like composing the music for the specific goals. Now you have these people that can look around. It's not the same awareness being in this world, be able just doing that simple move, just move around and have that sense of your body moving, then be with your stick.
I think that when we start talking about VR, it's a completely different media form. I know we like to say it's part of video games, but I don't want to categorize it in the same way, because when you watch a movie, I like to think of it kind of like 2D. Yeah. You're completely removed from it. You have no input or actions into what's happening. It just unfolds, very linear. It just happens. Left to right, 2.5 hours, it's done. It's over. Yeah. Video games, it's more three-dimensional. You can move about. It's a little bit more interactive. I feel like with VR, it's this fourth dimension of now it's no longer something that's removed from you. You are in it. And that, again, I guess is like the Wild West of media right now, where it's uncharted territory. And I think you said it 2 episodes ago. We're in the infancy phase, and we are going to fall all over ourselves trying to get this thing going. I don't think it's going to catch on. It's way too expensive for anybody. The mass people to test it, the ones who can really make a dent, and we can't reach it. Therefore, only the elites get it.
Well, I feel like it's like any technology, though. I mean, I've seen the commercials where they have the phone that goes into the headset, which makes it into virtual reality. So they're
but isn't that the same, though?
Yeah, but they're trying, and they're trying to push that element upon us. But I don't. Personally, at this point, I don't have much interest, but obviously that changes and evolves.
I have a hard enough time paying attention that when Caroline tries to talk to me as I'm really invested in something, and if I'm in a VR thing, I'm going to be...
Forget it. It's like you're gone.
I'm not a scaredy cat at all, but sometimes when I write in my room or I'm playing and I have my headsets on and she comes up and she taps me, I freak out. Yeah. My arms go up. I've never done this before in my life, but it happens. In a VR, you take away my real vision. I'm done.
Your hearing.
Yeah.
Like, honey, like, whatever. Zelda is talking to me. I'm not here right now.
And again, that's something movies can't do, and that's something that games haven't done, or music. So again, this VR thing, that's a complete immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like the ultimate nerdy,
Nerd
dream.
Nirvana.
Yeah, pretty much. And this is gonna be an interesting question for my wife. I think you're aware what exactly is VR, right? What it stands for. So, because we have a different perspective. Chris, Carol, and I were a little bit more into it. What's your opinion about that device and that thing coming on? Because it's expensive and blah blah, but the industry pushes whatever they want people to buy.
He's testing the waters.
Okay, so going off something Chris said about you being in it instead of observing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I turned 9 for a second.
Yeah.
But
no, okay, so I remember being like 13 and wishing that I could like make a soundtrack while I was walking around. And that's the first time I felt like I could apply music to my life. But if you're in virtual reality and there's music accompanying it, does that take away and make it less realistic? Because say you're going somewhere in virtual reality or just in real life. You're going somewhere, you're thinking about something, you have whatever soundtrack you're applying in your brain, as opposed to I'm going to go there and have something pre-done for me which accompanies this. I wonder if that might take away from
the immersion
and the reality. Because, so talk about immersion, that makes me think of language. So you're going, you're going somewhere, you speak a language, you're hearing the sounds, and what you're bringing to that in your own head is very different from something being superimposed on top of that. So I wonder if there needs to be more subtlety to the VR soundtrack, or some kind of customization where it figures out, what your interests are and customizes it to you to make you feel like you're really there. That's kind of what I wonder if it'll ever get there.
Yeah, but it's like, It's pretty much what is happening, and this is what we refer to. This is so infant still. It's because pretty much what happened is you put this sort of helmet in your head, and then you're seeing kind of like what you see on the TV, but it's a little bit more immersive. You can just interact. You move your neck and you move your head. And you can, it's but that's it. It's just you're playing the game. I think you're talking more like almost like the Matrix, where you can be in a different reality, but then
no, I hear where she was going. I mean, when I walk down the street, the Bee Gees aren't playing in my head. I'm thinking about what I need to get from the store and what I need to have. No music is really accompanying unless I have earbuds in, and I think that when I play a game, I know I'm playing a game. I can see my TV, the peripherals of my eyes. I can see my couches. Versus when I'm actually in that world, that's all of my sensory input that I'm relying on because we rely on our eyes so much. And so when I start listening, if I hear music that doesn't match where I'm at, it might throw me off. Like it might make me a little dizzy. Or at least disorient me more than I already am sitting down, but yet running in the virtual reality world. I do have those same fears. That what do I want? Do I want that ambient sounds, or do I want something like the background music to be playing, the score to be playing underneath, the overtones? I don't know which one would be more welcomed. And so again, we don't know, and that's the scary part.
Well, I think what Nicole made me think about is I would actually enjoy the music. It would just remind you that you are in a virtual reality, not real reality, and you don't get too caught up or too lost. It reminds you that this is an experience, but it's not truly going through, and you kind of just, I don't know, it's a good reminder because it is still simulated. You want to keep reminding yourself that, like, oh, it's just an experience. It's just a momentary lapse. Good. Yeah. Makes it, I think, a little more enjoyable, too.
Or who knows? Maybe that's the evil plan from the government. We're gonna hook up to a virtual reality for the rest of our lives. Why not? I want to be Neo. Shut down.
I know Chris wants to be Neo.
But I think that will be it for this episode. I think there's still a lot to talk about it, definitely, especially with that BR part. That last input from my wife was quite interesting.
Made us think.
You broke the podcast.
Thank you. But I think it's just only the future will tell us what's going to happen. Again, it's an expensive technology. It's just really infant. It's just pretty much like one of those gimmickies that you bring your geek eyes and like, oh, look at this shit. Or like even your mom, you're going to lose your shit. Put this in, something like that. And people's like, oh my God. But other than that, I don't see any appliance for me yet.
There's nothing there that's pulling. But I think we can all agree that music in any type of media, whether it's movie or television or games, it definitely enhances your experience, and that we all have such different tastes in what we like, but it all means the same thing.
All right. That sounds good to finish the podcast, girls. Thank you for delight us with your presence.
Thank you for inviting us.
I was wondering if we were going to ask your subscribers to leave comments.
Oh my gosh, we would have to go another week.
Thank you, That's Chris' task because he was asking, dude, hey, we need to ask people to have reviews. So please, make the honors and make the most sexy voice so a lot of people is going to leave reviews.
We would really appreciate it if you could leave a review. We're not looking for the highest marks. We just want a real comment. We want some input. You want it longer? You want it shorter? Do you like what we're doing? Anything would go a long way. We need just some sort of input. It would make 2016 worth it if we can get a comment.
Well, pretty much almost 17. By the way, we're here New Year's Eve, so you can see how much committed to this podcast we are. Other people probably partying like crazy. We're just sitting here talking
for you.
We have our champagne and we do this podcast.
There you go. So please just leave it a review, like Chris said.
Go to iTunes.
Yeah, even if you just leave stars, I know sometimes like, oh my God, I don't want to ride, blah blah. But even if you just leave the rating from the 5 stars, 5 stars will be nice. 3 is still fine. And if you're going to put 2 and 1, then please, come on, people.
Google keeps telling me how many subscribers we have, and it's really hard to believe this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just want one subscriber to just leave.
Want something
You
tangible.
do exist.
Yeah.
Right. And we're going to keep, doing this. So far, it's 5. And I know it sounds like a lot, 200, but believe me, next year, by this time, probably going to be really close to that.
Let us know, too, what topics you want these gentlemen to address, or there's special topics you want Caroline and I to come back and join on.
More than happy.
Female perspective. I know there's at least one subscriber who's volunteered to come be a guest.
There you
So, let us know a little bit about what your other interests are, who you are, and what you'd like to hear in the future.
All right. Guys, something you want to tell people for the next year, because 2016 seems it sucks kind of a lot.
Well, enjoy it while it lasts. Won't be much longer. And have a very happy and fruitful new year.
Yeah.
Mr. Chris, don't be shy, my friend.
I hope we treat 2017 with a lot more care than we treated 2016.
Yeah.
That does not drop us again. No, I wish everybody safe and happy holidays, and I hope you guys can keep up with your New Year's resolutions.
Happy New Year. Hope that 2017 helps you achieve some of your goals and dreams, and keep listening.
And it's a saying in Mexico that it says, if life give you his back, I think that's how you say it. If somebody give you back. No, I want to say it in English. We're doing this in English.
He's so proud.
Si la vida te da la espalda, if life give you. All right, there you go. That's what I was trying to find. If life turns back on you, grab his butt. All right. So have fun for this 2017.
I'm gonna use that.
We'll see you in the next episode, my people. Adios.
Thank you.